So disruption, a term which is used a lot, but most of the time not rightly interpreted. So let's talk about disruption. So what we see is that there are a lot of shifts in the basis of competition. We see more competition, we see more money invested in the market, and a lot of consumer behavior shifts. So to understand what disruption is, it's actually a process identified by Clayton Christensen, who did a lot of research to understand the process. And what it basically means is that if you look at the chart, then at number 1, you see overshooting or overshoot. Basically means that one moment in time, there are certain categories that produce products that basically overshoot the needs of the consumers. A nice example is the Apple iPhone that moves from number 3 all up the way now to number 14. Somewhere in that track, you will lose consumers and customers because they're not willing to pay 1,400 euros maybe for another better camera or face ID recognition. So they step into a simpler product for a cheaper price, but that does the job still in a good way. So at the moment, you want to keep your premium prices, but you don't really come with a new business model, but you only add functionalities. That is the time that markets start changing. In the case of Apple, you saw smaller smartphone players introducing cheaper smartphones, but still you could do your email, your internet, and all basic things you would like to expect from a smartphone. But, of course, that is number 2. So there are cheaper competitors with products not as superior as the ones maybe existing in the market, but do the job well enough. But of course, these products also go up market in order to become more premium. So they add functionalities to have a certain price point. So they move up market. And then at one moment in time, they also can be disrupted because they're overshooting, let's say, the needs of the consumers in that market at the moment. This basically means that we have 2 types of disruptions. 1 is low-end disruptions and 2 is new market disruptions. An example of a new market disruption is HBX, which is the online education platform of Harvard Business School. Normally you would pay around 200,000 or 300,000 euros or dollars for attaining a program of Harvard, but now they made this platform, of course, not as prestigious that you will meet all the Harvard professors, but still you have access to the content, but you would only pay maybe $3,000. So the new market disruption basically makes it able for people that couldn't consume the regular Harvard business programs, now able to actually connect with the content of Harvard, but in a less excellent way, but still good enough way, which is now online courses. So that's an example of a new market disruption. I gave you an example of a low-end disruption that maybe the cheap smartphones entered certain markets, but another example is how Toyota entered the US market so they could compete head-on with General Motors and try to make the best SUV for the best customers, but then you need to have more money, more technology, more credibility, and the brand to win from General Motors. So what did they do? They launched a little car called the Toyota Corona to get a foothold with a different set of customers that couldn't afford the luxurious SUVs. And of course, if you would be a vice president at General Motors, you would not think when you walk down the street and you see a Toyota Corona, oh, that's going to be a competitor. Of course not, because they serve a very different market. But again, the Toyota Corona became the Toyota Camry. The Camry became maybe the Lexus. And so they move up market, try to capturing more market share from different segments. So these are different types of disruptions that you can see in the market happening. Now, and what you see here is a job map. And the job map is very interesting to brainstorm and explore different types of strategies. Now, in the top left corner, you see get the job done better and charge more. So this is basically how can we differentiate, how can we make a more premium product with a great price point. And it's targeting overserved customers. So basically people that are not super satisfied with the existing products and are looking for a more premium offering. That's what we call a differentiated strategy. There is also something called a dominant strategy, which basically means is that you get the job done better, but you charge less. Of course, this is always a great strategy, and UberX is an example of that. Then you have a discrete strategy, which is not most of the time an option, but you do the job less and you charge more. The only thing where you can see that is in cinemas or on airports, where you, as a consumer, has limited options, so you need to buy expensive products in those retailers, and most of the time they don't deliver actually the quality that you might expect, but they charge more. Then a disruptive strategy, what we discussed, is that you charge less, but you get the job done better. And that is basically a disruptive strategy focusing on underserved consumers. And this is an option most of the time not considered by the teams that we work with. Now, to give you that example, the dominant strategy, UberX, they made their cab services more accessible, convenient. It solved a couple of pains that you might have experienced when you had let's say, a more classic cab service, and they charge even a bit less. Of course, they are heavily funded to make this possible. Uberpool is a disruptive strategy, so basically it's the job done is a bit worse, but of course you charge less. So you want to give your service and make it accessible to non-consumers. So Uberpool is the car ride service of Uber. Then of course the more premium version is Uber Black, for those who would like to drive a bit more luxurious and would like to pay a bit more. So the benefit of this framework is that when you understand the job very well, there are different ways to commercialize your innovation and different pathways to make your innovation successful.